Sandbox MMA fans, UFC 305 is coming up this weekend, and I am pretty damn excited. Now, what you're going to see is I'm not making a breakdown of the Tybura Spivak card. It doesn't deserve it. Doesn't deserve any recognition. Shit card, terrible card. Dana putting together shit, but 305 looks pretty damn good. The main card's awesome. Prelims have some featured fighters that I think are very skilled and talented, Jack Jenkins in particular, but this is not my picks and predictions video. This is a video about Israel Adesanya versus Dricus Du Plessis. Does Israel Adesanya actually deserve the title shot? And I'm going to let you guys make your own decisions on this at some point today, but I'm going to tell you right now, I don't believe he does. Now, that does not mean that I don't want to see Israel Adesanya versus Dricus Du Plessis. I think it's a sick fight. There's bad blood, and I think this has the makings for a fireworks fight. A lot of stakes on the line, middleweight title. Israel Adesanya is the perennial guy at middleweight that has been the longest reigning champion that we've had of recently. Obviously, Strickland was sprinkled in there, Pereira was sprinkled in there, and now DDP, but Israel has been the guy that's been involved and had to fight all of them. But we're going to talk about if Israel Adesanya deserves the title shot or not. Now, while everyone knows that I don't like Israel Adesanya, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve the title shot because of the dog touching, the cringe lines, the boring fights, the fact that he's lost to some of these fighters. Maybe the last one, but we're going to dive through just a little bit about Israel Adesanya's record and why I believe he doesn't deserve the title shot. Now, Israel Adesanya is getting a title fight coming off of a loss to Sean Strickland. Now, if that was his first loss, I'd say Israel gets an immediate rematch against Strickland. Oh, he wanted to take time off, then he can fight the winner of Strickland and DDP and he gets an immediate rematch. Fine. The problem with that is he already got his immediate rematch, and it was against Alex Pereira. So he fights Alex Pereira, loses to Alex Pereira, then gets his immediate rematch. Totally fine. Then he fights Sean Strickland, and he loses. Strickland since then goes on to fight DDP and gets not robbed, but loses a decision that I don't agree with and most of the MMA world does not agree with. And then he also beats Paulo Costa in that time. So now he's got his number one contender spot. But Izzy's getting the fight in Australia for the Battle of Africa. Doesn't make sense to me. Israel Adesanya lost to the deserving challenger right now. But let's go through some more parts on his record here. So everyone likes to talk about contender Izzy, right? Got his knockout here on Australian FC. Where's his first UFC fight? Here against Rob Wilkinson. He beat this absolute tomato can Rob Wilkinson, and he did it in the second round. Then he splits Marvin Vettori, and we know how terrible Marvin Vettori really is. He gets a decision over Brad Tavares. This isn't a murderer contender, is he? Then he gets Derek Brunson, where he wins with knees in the first round. Again, Derek Brunson, not the man, but I guess at that time he was solid. But he beats him, and this isn't like a contender Izzy thing. These are just, he's fighting guys that are open to having mistakes be made. Anderson Silva fights an old, washed Anderson Silva. Then he goes to fight Kelvin Gastelum for an interim title. Has one of the most fun fights that he's ever had against Kelvin Gastelum. But he was getting hurt. Like, he's not this undefeated contender. It's not like just when he goes to be the champion, he has boring fights or he has not impressive performances. The one against Gastelum was impressive. But everyone talks about contender Izzy like he's this guy that never gets touched and he just puts people out cold. He didn't put out Kelvin Gastelum. I would argue Whitaker beat his ass much more than Israel Adesanya did. Now let's go to the Whitaker fight. Great performance from Adesanya here. Ends up knocking out Whitaker. Now we get to his title reign. A shitter, one of the worst fights of all time against Yoel Romero that you can argue he lost. Romero landed some more powerful shots, as few as he did, he landed some more powerful shots, and Izzy just ran away the whole time. Romero could have won that fight. Then he has probably his stapled best performance against Paulo Costa. This is the best performance of his career, I believe. This one or the Whitaker 1 fight. He just beats up Paulo Costa. Very impressive. Then he goes up in weight and gets schooled by Jan Blachowicz. Like, absolutely schooled, taken down, outstruck. Contender Izzy. How is contender Izzy going up to fight for Jan Blachowicz? Has 2 title defenses, and then goes up to fight at another weight. Okay. Then he gets a rematch against Marvin Vettori. Again, he won, clearly, but not impressively. He just got a couple of extra strikes each round and won the fight clearly. Not an impressive win. Boring. Put everybody to sleep. Ton of hype on this fight. Got schooled by Vettori in the press conference also. But I mean, just a shitty low-level MMA fight. He just leg kicked at range and then defended takedowns against the cage. This was terrible. Terrible, terrible fight. Then he fights Whittaker and robs Whittaker. Whittaker won that fight 3-2. He outboxed Israel Adesanya because Israel Adesanya is not that good at boxing. He's a great kickboxer. He's not that good at straight using the hands in boxing. He loses to Whittaker here, but gets gifted a decision. Gifted a decision on a silver platter. So Whittaker gets robbed. Izzy doesn't even deserve to have the title. Next fight he gets is against Cannonier, and it's again one of the most boring fights, in MMA history. At International Fight Week, directly after Volk schooled Holloway in Max vs. Volk 3. Directly after Volk put on the best performance possibly in MMA history, we get one of the least impressive performances in MMA history with Israel Adesanya beating Jared Cannonier. Terrible fight, leg kicking at range the whole time and running away. Awful, not enough output, boring shit fight. So I don't get why the UFC defends this guy. Next up is Alex Pereira, and while he got rocketed to the top, it makes sense because there was no one else for Izzy to fight. He's already fought everyone else. Pereira did knock out the number 3 ranked Sean Strickland, who we'll talk about in a second. And Pereira also had 2 wins over Izzy in kickboxing. So, again, little bit of privilege. He's getting this in his 7th UFC fight. Pereira proved he deserved it because he went out there and he beat Israel Adesanya. Knocked him out in the 5th round, and before you guys say an early stoppage, he was one more punch away from going to sleep out cold on the canvas, and as much as I would have loved to see that, probably preserved part of his career. Then he gets his immediate rematch. Deserved. 100% deserved immediate rematch after, losing to Whittaker and barely beating Cannonier and Vettori and, having a good performance against Costa. He does deserve, all jokes aside, he deserves this immediate rematch against Pereira. He gets it, and he's getting beat up, but he lands the perfect counter and wins. Well played by Izzy. If that counter shot doesn't put Pereira out, Izzy probably gets knocked out later in that round. But great performance from Izzy in this. Gets the win over Pereira. And that's that. He got his immediate rematch. So next up is Dricus Du Plessis, who wins against Robert Whittaker and then gets hurt. So they try and force DDP into a fight 7 weeks after he goes to war with Whittaker for a round and a half. 7 weeks, 8 weeks later? That's super short timing. So he's nursing an injury, whatever. Sean Strickland steps up and says, yep, I'm going to be the one to fight him. I haven't fought him yet, and I'm coming off a win against Abus Magomedov. And my only other win, or he lost to Cannonier, but that was, again, not a decision I agree with. And he also lost to Pereira, who everyone at middleweight other than Izzy is. Everyone has lost to Pereira other than Izzy. So say what you want about that. But Sean Strickland goes out there and schools Izzy 49-46 as I'm getting a knockdown and makes Izzy look like he had one of his worst performances again. Defended everything from Izzy. So Strickland now has a win over Izzy. Okay, so now Izzy should fight a contender before he gets another shot at the title because he has now lost 2 of his last 3. If you count the Whittaker fight, he lost 3 of his last 5. If you count the Jan Blachowicz fight, he lost 4 out of his last 7. Like, dude, this guy's not looking that impressive at this point in his career. And he's just getting gifted these title shots. He doesn't to me. If Strickland was his first loss there, then yes, he gets that immediate rematch. But it wasn't. He got his immediate rematch against Alex Pereira. And he won it. Good on him. So he gets to defend his title again. He gets against Strickland. And he loses. Then Strickland goes on to lose to DDP in a fight that most people believe he should have won, fights Paulo Costa, and still gets passed on the opportunity for Izzy to fight DDP. Now, I get it. Du Plessis and Adesanya is an absolute grudge match. It's the Battle of Africa. One of them's really from Africa. The other one's from China, Australia, had roots in Nigeria and pretends like he came up from poverty when he was really grown up having servants in Nigeria. Wonder what his family was doing where he had that. They end up moving to New Zealand. Did I say Australia? They end up moving to New Zealand, so he reps New Zealand. When he walks out there, he has the New Zealand flag next to his name. He's also gone on a statement saying, I'm a Chinese champion, because he loves anime. And he jelks his kelk to fucking hentai like a fucking weirdo. Now, that is why I hate him. I think he's one of the many reasons I hate him, why I think he's annoying and he's cringy. And I think his fight style is overrated and he's not that fun. But he's also getting gifted a title fight here. Now, I love the fight of DDP versus Izzy. I think it's going to be a fun fight. I think there's going to be bad blood on it, and I think it's one that we needed to see. And if it wasn't for a title, maybe it does take a little bit away. This is not, do I want to see Israel Adesanya versus Du Plessis? That's not the question of this video. Does Israel Adesanya actually deserve this title fight? My argument is no. Most people's arguments are no. And if your argument is yes, then you're just coping and you're just listening to your favorite fighter because you like to go sit home and watch anime too. So maybe grow up a little bit. Anyway, I don't think Izzy deserves the title shot. I think it should go to Strickland. And now Whitaker's also on the back burner. And I get he asked for the fight for Khamzat. If he was next for the title, or if it was Strickland was fighting DDP here in Australia, and then Whitaker was next, he probably wouldn't take the Khamzat fight. He would just wait for his title fight. But now we got a logjam here. Should have been Izzy versus Khamzat. That would have been a sick fight that also sold. But at the end of the day, Izzy versus DDP is a fun, interesting fight, and I can't wait to watch it. But don't get it slept on. Israel Adesanya is getting gifted a title shot because for some reason the UFC thinks that he sells, that people want to watch him as champion. They don't. They don't. They just like anime, and they like a guy that reps it with them. Cringe lord, dog diddler, absolute loser on the microphone, boring fight style, does not deserve this fight, but he got it. He's got his Dana White privilege, and can't wait to watch him turn this geographical location war into a race war like he's done for the past year and a half. DDP has made simple points throughout this whole thing. I am from Africa. I am born in Africa, I was raised in Africa, I trained in Africa, I won a title, and I brought it back to Africa. None of that is incorrect. Israel Adesanya, born in Africa, raised in New Zealand, brought a title back to New Zealand, claimed China is his area, not Africa, China is his area. He doesn't live in Africa anymore, he doesn't train in Africa, he hasn't in a long time. Again, all he's going to say is that he's African. Why? We know why. He's going to say that Dricus isn't. Why? We know why he's saying that. Now, I'm not going to go and have YouTube just fucking put a red flag on me by saying it, but we all know where this is going. Izzy's playing a race war. DDP's playing a geographical location war. Izzy's going to look real fucking dumb at this press conference, and then he is going to get wrestle-fucked and beat up by DDP, hopefully finished, and he won't get gifted any more title shots because he just does not deserve them. We're done with Izzy. This is a fun fight. I can't wait to watch it. We always needed to see Izzy versus DDP, and I'm glad it's for the belt, but don't get it slept on. He does not deserve this. He was gifted this. If you like the content, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. If you agree or disagree, leave a note in the comments. I'm open to all opinions, but I don't think my mind's getting changed on this outside of someone bringing up a point that I have not even sniffed yet. I don't want to hear the point that he's cleaned the whole division, he's beaten up everyone. No, because he did not beat Whitaker the second time. That is a very clear robbery. Yoel Romero, he debatably lost as well. He didn't look good in his second fight against Vettori or his first fight. He didn't look good in his fight against Cannonier. He won these fights, but he barely won them. He did lose to Whitaker. He did lose to Romero, in my opinion, in most people's opinion. And then he got slept by Pereira. He lost to Strickland, and he's just getting gifted these rematches. He doesn't deserve it. This is a fun fight, but he does not deserve it. Thank you again for watching.